strong, the powerful Caleb Silver has returned to Lifeblood. Welcome back, Caleb.
It's good to be back, and I feel pretty strong and powerful. Despite the year, I'm feeling blessed and happy to be here.
Nice. I like it. Well, we are excited to have you back on. Caleb is the editor-in-chief and SVP of content for Investopedia, and he is the host of the Investopedia Express podcast. Excited to have you back on. Caleb, tell us a little bit about your personal life, some more about your work, and why you do what you do.
Well, it's good to be here, and congratulations on your great run podcasting. It's one of the most terrific podcasts out there, and you bring such good guests on, and I'm just honored to be here. So thank you again, George, for having me. I am the editor-in-chief of Investopedia. I've been with the company for a little more than 5 years, and we have had just an incredible ride, especially over the last couple of years, but especially over the last year, as you can imagine, with so many people starting to invest for the first time and starting to trade for the first time and starting to get involved as market participants. It has been an unbelievable surge in interest in our content and also in sort of our point of view on the world. We've been around as a website for 23 years, George. So in internet years, that's 230. But as you know, the world of money and investing has changed so much that we've had to change with it, and we've had to really ratchet up our content to answer the questions of the 21st century investor. And I'm sort of sitting in front of that with my team. But it's a cool position to be in because we know what people are looking for, and we are trying to help them at this sort of critical moment in their lives.
Yeah. So many cool opportunities. I mean, we had our first show, which was the 500th episode, and now here we are recording the 1000th episode on March 5th of 2020, which was right around the time that the pandemic started. So many patterns have been broken, and so many lousy things are happening. But to your point, what an exciting time for the world of investing. So you talk about being there to help serve those investors. Tell me more about that.
Well, nobody walks in, very few people walk in the front door of Investopedia.com. Everybody goes there because they are searching for something. They have an intention. The intention is, what is a short squeeze, or how do I start investing with $10,000, or how do I diversify my portfolio, right? These are intentional questions. So people are coming in through search engines, through the side, back, basement doors to us. And we have, because we've been doing this a long time, a pretty good window on what people are searching for and a pretty good finger on the pulse of how investors are both feeling and behaving. And I write a couple of newsletters every day. We have about 4 or 5 daily newsletters reaching about 1.5 million people. A year ago, actually before it was February of 2020, we started surveying our newsletter audiences. And these are all active investors at certain stages. Some are white belts, some are black belts, some are green belts, about how they felt, about their sentiment, about their fears, about their anxieties, and about how they were allocating their money. So we've been having this ongoing conversation with our audience about sentiment. In addition, we see what they're searching for because, like I said, they come in through the side door. So we have this anxiety index, which tracks traffic to fear-based terms, right? What are people looking up in terms of bear markets, corrections, recessions, double-dip recessions, foreclosure, forbearance? And we're able to see where that anxiety is. Is it personal finance or is it market-related? And measure that against what's happening in the market, plus our sentiment surveys that we're doing with our readers has given us this incredible window onto behavior and feeling, the real feel of actual retail investors putting money to work, and it's been an enormous educational experience in the past year.
Yeah, I can only imagine. 4.5. Did you say 4.5 daily newsletters? How?
4 to 5 daily. I think there's 5 daily newsletters now, and they go out to about 1.5 million people, and the response rate is very. It's pretty strong on those because, you're not subscribing to an investing newsletter unless you really want to read it. Or our term of the day, which is one of our most popular. People have been subscribing to that for more than a decade because people like to stay educated and stay informed. But we've really tuned up our daily newsletter. So we are speaking to the moment, talking about things that are happening, but doing it, George, through the educational lens that is the DNA of Investopedia. We've never tried to be a business wire. We've never tried to be a, chase, Bloomberg and Reuters and the giants. We've never been about that. We've always been about education. And this last year particularly has been an opportunity to re-embrace those roots and approach all of our storytelling and all of our even our news coverage through the educational lens. What does the educated investor need to know to make decisions here? We're not telling them buy, sell, hold. We're telling them here's how to think about it. And then you do what you need to do based on your own circumstances. And we try to show them the path to getting there.
I, I I love it, and I'm not just saying this, Caleb, but whenever people ask me where can I go to get information about, investing or getting started, whatever, I always say Investopedia, just because I do find it to be so approachable and accessible. I would never say go to XYZ, just because I think that the way that the work that you're doing is just what I just said. It is approachable, it is consumable and digestible. So as you're going out and you're getting input from millions of people, how do you then put that in a filter and sort of come out and say, here's what we're going to be focused on, and here's what we're actually going to be reporting and writing on?
Right. It's a good question because you can't do everything, but you are defined by your choices. And most people, when you say, when you bring up Investopedia or you recommend it or they know it, everybody kind of knows the name again because we've been around a long time, but also we've been useful to people. And the name kind of says it, says it all. You have to get beyond that. We're just a definition glossary site that helps you with test prep and get ready for your series exams. So in the past 5 years, we've really leaned into, like I said, news, but through the educational lens. Also, helping people understand the way companies react. We're never going to beat the big wires to the Amazon earnings, quick file story. But what we can do is give context around what Amazon was reporting, what's going on inside of its businesses. And then the secondary story for us is how do they make money? Or how, when a company's about to go public, we try to not cover the IPO and desperately cover the who's underwriting it in the roadshow or the direct listing, the details as much as what is this company? How does it make money? Who's behind it? Where does it fit into the industry? Like, to break it down very simply, like Sesame Street did for me when I was a kid and is still doing all these years later. I think that's the most effective way of educating users. And we're like I said, we're not news, so we're not blasting it out. Extra, read all about it. We're pulling you in because we know what you're searching for. So that educational angle is always the one that's worked for us. In terms of what to cover, though, obviously, so many new folks are coming into the market for the first time, but think of all the different story narratives we've had in 2020 into 2021. First, the pandemic, the fastest recession, bear markets in history, the fastest recovery in history, then the explosion of these stay-at-home stocks with these new business models. So each one of those is a new opportunity to talk about, stay-at-home businesses like a Peloton that really did well through the pandemic, or a Spotify or a Shopify, and really educating folks about that. And then think about what happened, the recovery, the election. There was like 50 stories packed into a year. Sometimes you wait 5 years for stories like that. We had them all last year. And then the meme stocks, obviously, with the day trading frenzy around the GameStops of the world and the AMCs, that's another opportunity for us to reframe how new traders who are approaching this for the first time should be thinking about it. So we've launched new channels to do that. I'm on TikTok explaining the very basics of trading and investing, so that we can, folks who are coming there, and there's a lot of people that are coming there, differentiate ourselves from the cute videos of people telling you what to do with your stimmy checks, but be like, this is actually how you buy shares of a company you can't invest in through fractional shares, or this is how you put a limit order on your trade so you don't get burned if things go the other way. It's a great chance to be basic on a new channel.
Yeah, amen. So I have in my head this image of a newsroom from back in the day where the editor is yelling at the writers, we got deadlines, we got to get going, and the writer's like, no, I've got this great story that I'm chasing, I need a little bit more time. What does that look like today?
It's me chomping a chewed up cigar in my office, no lights, 4 bottles of empty whiskey on the counter, and yelling at my writers to give me rewrite.
Sort of like that, but slightly different.
Opening the door really fast and yelling something out into the newsroom that nobody could understand, and slamming the door again and going back in. Just like that.
What does it really look like? Or
it's really more like us looking at what where the traffic is and what people are looking for. Plus, we have some tools that allow us to see kind of what future traffic trends might look like based upon search volume around the things that we care most about, right? Which is investing, finance, trading, personal finance, retirement, saving for college, all of these, life stage moments for people and their money. We're looking around and seeing what's popping, what's bubbling, both in the news, but also in terms of search volume and traffic and what's making noise out there, looking at our corpus of content and going, are these answers, even though they may rank number one in Google, they may be the first result, are they really satisfying the question with an answer that helps people so that they will say, I just learned something, I am going to recommend that, or I'm going to do that, or I'm going to see what else they have, and I'm going to continue the learning journey. So there's that. And then, George, what we've done a lot of in the last few years, and this is across Dotdash, which is our parent company, which includes about 13 other sites right now, including The Balance and others, is putting our educational content in what we call journeys. So that if you come in that side door, George, looking for how do I rebalance my portfolio? Well, you read that article, you've come to the article you're looking for, but in the left margin is a bunch of other articles that are in that journey. So it's rebalancing, how to get started rebalancing, what's ways to diversify your portfolio. There's like 20 other things that make sense contextually, not because we just think so, but because editorially, as editors, we're like, that was what I would want to see, but also that's what our audience is telling us they're looking for. So matching that up and tying it all together in an educational journey has become very powerful for us and I think very useful for our readers and part of the success of what we do, because we're really just trying to answer questions with the best answers possible. So it's really that, looking at where the gaps are, what we have, is it as good as it could be, improving it, spending a ton of budget, time, and people resources on making our content the best on the internet, and then seeing what else we want to cover. And obviously with the new rise of crypto, we want to be all over that. With the new traders looking at, a lot of these meme stocks and trying different strategies, we want to be across that. But also, if you look at what's happening in the political economy, there's probably going to be new taxes. There's going to be an infrastructure bill. There's $5 trillion in stimulus running around. There's endless things for us to cover our way, but we can't. It's not like we can just cover everything we want. We have to do it our way, which limits, the amount that we can do.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And there's obviously limits to what we as human beings are. And I imagine, well, do you feel like you're a good steward of your attention? And how do you think about that as you're doing all this stuff and you've launched the new podcast and you're trying to stay on top of everything? How do you think about allocating your attention?
Yeah, it's been a real challenge, and I think working from home, I think makes it more of a challenge because there is no, I'll get to that when I get in an hour, or I got to get home and then I got to have dinner and then I got to deal with that. You got to pull yourself away. I find to stop, and I can't start early enough in the morning and I can't stop late enough in the evening, but I have to set those limits and take that time. And I'm a business news guy. I've been doing this for 25 years. My comfort zone is chasing news. Like, I love it and I get into it and I'm really good at that. And I'm very fast on the turnaround, which makes the daily newsletters a nice fit for me. That's my ability, my chance to express myself. The podcast is more fun, but I get to go a little bit deeper and I get to do a little freestyle, even though it horrifies my children. I get to do a little freestyle rapping on that. But in general, I have to really focus on where am I going to have the most impact. And the most impact for me as the editor-in-chief is not to tell the editors what to do. They're smart enough to know that. We have terrific editors, but to make sure we're across the conversation in the way that it's developed out there in the world, because I really do feel like trading and investing has changed in some ways, and also to make sure that we're skating to where the puck's going, to quote Gretzky, so that we're going to be covering the right parts of the way the world is changing, and also making sure that people in the world know our brand and they know that I'm connected to that brand and the brand is connected to me, and that I am, trying to be the point of view of Investopedia, and what that means is really helping people understand money.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So Stephen Pressfield's War of Art, and he's got some new books out, so he's been in the ether quite a bit as of late. I imagine, and I'm just going to, I guess I should just ask the question, do you have time blocked to write, or you just have such finite time that when you have a little bit, that's when you have to write?
It's funny. I have my calendar open now and I'm looking at these chunks where I just said I need 90 minutes there. I know it's not on my calendar. I'm just going to put it there so nobody takes it. And I'm going to use that time. But I have, three or four things that I'm always writing at certain points of the day, whether it's, this afternoon's newsletter, I see a chart or I see an idea I want to know, I want to come back to. So I'm dropping that in. Meanwhile, we're working up a survey right through that we just did with our audience. So I'm making sure I'm touching that. I want to create some charts and graphics because I'm going to be on TV later, and I want to make sure that the producers at the network I'm working with have those and they are clean and they have our brand on them for a little brand recognition. But I find that really helps them. So I'm touching little things all the time and I'm spinning a lot of plates. As the editor in chief, you're kind of doing your thing in a lot of ways. But I do have these products like the 2 daily newsletters, one that goes out around 8:30 in the morning, one that goes out around 5:30 p.m. that kind of bookend the content part of the day. And then the podcast is something I work on throughout the course of the week and wrap up on Sunday night and into Monday morning. And then the other stuff is when I can do it, but you have to block. I find you have to block the time. And what's weird is, I write a lot every single day. And when I go a few days without writing, I feel like I like you've been at the gym for a month and then you stop going. You're like, what's happening to my body? I'm shriveling and dying here. I'm melting. And you find like you need it like oxygen. So I'm addicted to it.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. What do you wish that more people asked you?
I think the question that I rarely get asked is how I invest, and I don't mind talking about it because as the editor in chief of Investopedia, you'd think that I was a disciple of Benjamin Graham or Jack Schwager or somebody. I don't. I am not a great investor in that. I am good in that I'm boring, but I don't have these interesting dynamic ways of shorting the VWAP. And I don't play like that because I get burned. And whenever I've tried to pick stocks, I failed miserably. I was famous for picking Lehman Brothers at $20 on its way down to nothing. I picked a few more stocks in the 2008-9 meltdown because I thought I was smarter than everybody else. And I lost a fair amount of money fairly quickly. And like I said, I've been a business journalist forever, so I should be better at it. But I got really good at it by being really boring at it. And so I'm an index fund investor and an ETF investor. I use a financial advisor. I'm a proud client of a great financial advisory firm. And I love working with them because I do know enough to have good informed conversations, but I know enough to know that I can't allocate like they can, and I can't think and see around corners like they do, and also protect me from myself. So I am a boring investor, but I also love working with a good financial advisor because I'm engaged in it, and that's how I invest. And I learn just like our audience. When I'm confused, I go to Investopedia, or I go to our sister site, The Balance, or I'll go to a Bloomberg or one of the great business publishers out there to get informed. And I'm just like everybody else, except I've just been in this game a long time.
Love it. Perfect. Well, Caleb, the people are ready for your difference-making tip. What do you have for them?
Well, I'm going to borrow it from Charlie Munger, who is the vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway. Charlie's only about, I think, in his late 90s, still sharp as a tack. I heard him speaking the other day at the board meeting for the company he owns. And when we interviewed Charlie Munger years ago, I used to go to the Warren Buffett meeting out there in Omaha, the Berkshire Hathaway meeting out there in Omaha, and try to interview Warren and Charlie. Charlie said something that's always stuck with me, which is, he said this, and he was in his late 80s when he said it. He says, I don't have the capacity in my life. No, he said, I don't have room in my life for people who don't have the capacity for change. And he wasn't necessarily talking about employees, but or anybody specifically. He was just talking in general about folks who don't have the ability to be flexible and be like water, like Bruce Lee said, and let it flow and find ways so they can change so that they can, continue to coexist peacefully with the world and also change their point of view. And I'm, I just turned 50 recently, and I've never been that stubborn of a person, but also understanding that I have to have the capacity to change as a learner, as a father, as a husband, as a son, as a brother, as a human being with who wants to be conscious, wants to spread consciousness and wants to spread education and wants to be helpful. I also have to have the capacity for change. So I learned that from Charlie, and I want to be around people who have that capacity and who are into it, and I'm trying to be that person too.
Well, I think that is great stuff. That definitely gets, come on. Caleb, thank you so much for coming back on. Thanks for being the guest on our 1000th episode. Where can people learn more about you? How can people engage with you?
I am the easiest person to find. I'm at Investopedia. So if you come to investopedia.com and you look at About Us, you'll find me there. But I'm really easy to find. I'm on Twitter at Caleb Silver. I'm on LinkedIn. I said we're on TikTok, the Investopedia channel on TikTok. You should check that out and give me some feedback because I need it. But we're on all the social platforms. And then you can subscribe to our newsletters if you want some daily stuff from us. So the Express goes out in the morning, the market some in the afternoon, the daily in the middle of the day, our term of the day, if you're a chart person, chart advisor. So we have lots of product offerings, but I'm easy to find. And you can hit me up. You have been super generous with your platform, George, and we'll have you on the Express soon. But your audience can always find us and hit us up with questions or recommendations of how we can get better because, like we said earlier, you don't have to get sick to get better, and we just want to continue to improve, and I want to continue to improve as an editor.
Amen. If you enjoyed this as much as I did, show Caleb your appreciation and share today's show with a friend who also appreciates good ideas. Go to Investopedia.com. Check out and sign up for the newsletters. Check out the Investopedia Express podcast. Find Caleb on LinkedIn and Twitter as well. Thanks again, Caleb.
Thank you, George. Always good to be with you.
And until next time, keep fighting the good fight. We are all in this together.